Hello, my dear students. Welcome to our English lesson. How are you? I think you are fine. The theme of our lesson is the works of Алихан Бөкейханов, Ахмет Байтұрсынов, Мыржақып Дулатов about heritage of Абай. Our lesson's learning objectives. Deduce meaning from context in unsupported extended talk on a wide range of general and curricular topics. Understand the main points in extended text of a range of unfamiliar general and curricular topics. Spell most high-frequency vocabulary accurately for a wide range of familiar, general, and curricular. Use simple present and simple past regular and irregular forms to describe routines, habits, and states on a limited range of familiar, general, and curricular topics. Now, look at the photo carefully and think, who are they? Do you know them? Have you ever heard about Алихан Бөкейханов, Ахмет Байтұрсынов, Мыржақып Дулатов? Today, we have some new words according to our theme. Listen, read, and repeat after me. Obituary, некролог. Obituary, некролог. Exclude, исключать. Exclude, исключать. Enroll, зарегистрироваться. Enroll, зарегистрироваться. Pen name, псевдоним. Pen name, псевдоним. Numerous, numerous. Personification, personification. Disease, disease. Deliver, deliver. Now, let's watch the video about the heroes of our today's lesson. Listen carefully.
The First World Kazakh Congress took place from the 21st to 28th of July 1917 in Orenburg, during which the Alash Party was created. From 5th to the 13th of December, a second all-union Kazakh Congress was organized. On this occasion, the Alash Orda government was established. The authority of the new government gained in strength thanks to the relentless efforts of a group of young people who were the main backbone of the newly established power. Alikhan Bökeyxanov was a prominent public figure and state activist and leader of Alash and a national liberation movement. Chairman of the Alash government, publicist and scientist, he was active in the struggle against the colonizing policy of the Tsarist imperial government. Bökeyxanov was one of the organizers behind the Kar-Karelinsk petition, which was signed by 14,500 people. He worked as an editor of several Russian-language newspapers in St. Petersburg and contributed much to the founding of the Kazakh newspaper in 1911 to 1914. Another of his many achievements was his research work. He did not deviate from his chosen path until the end of his life, but rather followed his principles. Ahmet Bайтұрсынов was a poet, educator, Turkologist, translator, master of journalism, public activist, and scholarly correspondent. He was one of the authors of the Kar-Karelinsk petition, which demanded the creation of a national homeland and the cancellation of the parceling out of Kazakh lands, as well as a halt to the mass settlement of all types of unwelcome guests. Together with Alikhan Bökeyxanov and Mыржақып Dulatuly, Bайтұрсынов was active in the publication of the Kazakh newspaper in Orenburg. He was one of the figures known as the leader and organizer of the Alash Orda government. Bайтұрсынов developed and introduced the Kazakh alphabet on the basis of Arabic letters and made changes to the children's ABC book. His ABC book, Jana Emlier, New Orthography, is still used by fellow Kazakhs living in China, Afghanistan, and Iran. Mыржақып Dulatuly was a poet and writer and one of the leaders of the Alash Orda. His famous poem, Wake Up Kazakh, was instrumental in lifting the national spirit of an oppressed country. The work of this author was banned, and it was illegal to read and disseminate it. Dulatuli was the author of the Unhappy Jamal novel, as well as a textbook on arithmetic. Among the leaders of Alash were Mustafa Shokai and the poet Marjan Jumabayev, as well as statesmen such as Sultan Bek Khojanov, Muhammadjan Tinishbayev, and other Kazakh intellectuals. All of these leaders were initially arch enemies of the Tsarist government and later of Soviet power. They sacrificed their lives for the sake of the nation. They are an inspiring example to future generations.
Read and listen to information about Alixan Bukikhanov, Ahmet Baytursunov, Mirjaqub Dulatov. You will have the exercise after reading the text. Be careful. Alixan Nurmuhamedullah Bukikhanov, he was born in 1866 and died in 1937, was a Kazakh statesman, politician, publicist, teacher, writer, and environmental scientist who was a founder and led the Alash party. He was the prime minister of the Alash autonomy from 1917 to 1920, making him the first person in the history of Kazakhstan to hold such a position. Bukikhanov was the first biographer of Abay Kunanbayev, publishing an obituary in Semipalatinsky Listok in 1905. In 1909, he published a collection of Kunanbayev's works. Ahmet Baytursunov was born in 1873, died 1937, was a Kazakh intellectual who worked in the fields of politics, poetry, linguistics, and education. Baytursunov reformed the Kazakh alphabet. In 1912, he excluded all the purely Arabic letters not used in the Kazakh language and added letters specific to the Kazakh language. The new alphabet, named the Toterazu, meaning straight writing, is still used by Kazakhs living in China, Afghanistan, and Iran. Baytursunov also developed the basics of the Kazakh and the scientific terminology for the definition of Kazakh grammar. In 1913, in 3 issues of the newspaper Kazakh, published Ahmet Baytursunov's article, "The Main Poet of the Kazakh." In it, he first called Abay the great lamp of his time, explains the depth of his poetry, the breadth of subjects, special skills in versification, and reveals the poet's connection with Russian literature and the aesthetic value of Abay. Mirjaqub Dulatov was born in 1885, died in 1935, was poet, writer, publicist, teacher, public person, one of the major representatives of the Kazakh culture and literature of the early 20th century. He lost his mother, Dimesh, at the age of 2 and his father, Dulat, at the age of 12. Mirjaqub graduated from elementary school in the village, and in 1897 he enrolled in a Kazakh-Russian pedagogical college and graduated in 1902 as a village teacher. In 1904 there was an event that changed his life. He also is known to have used the pen names Madyar and Argyn. In 1905, Bukikhanov first introduced to the world Abay, an unknown, previously unpublished Kazakh poet, whose works would soon see the light of day. The creation of Abay allowed him to publish his own more and more numerous poems under a pseudonym, but this was by no means the main goal of Bukikhanov. He wanted the new character to be the personification of a political movement. Alixan Bukikhanov is the founder of Kazakh Abay Studies, a widespread study of the poet's work and a collection of his creation. He also initiated and edited the first collection of poems and words of Abai's. Abai's edification, which was published in St. Petersburg in 1909. Back in 1904, a few weeks after the tragic death of the poet, Alixan Muhamedullah addressed his relatives and friends with a letter. He wrote about the need to collect and publish the poems of the deceased and offered his help. The first folder with manuscripts of poems was already delivered by the end of April 1905 to him in Omsk. The manuscript delivered by Kakitai Iskakovich Kunanbayev, Abai's nephew, and a long conversation with him served as the basis for the article. You read the information and now let's do the task 1. Rewrite from the text regular and irregular verbs in the past simple form. Write it in your copybooks. I'll give you 5 minutes. Now, let's check your work. Look at the right answers and check yourselves. Regular verbs: published, worked, reformed, excluded, used, enrolled, graduated, and so on, etc. Irregular verbs: was, led, lost, and wrote. We had 4 irregular verbs. Task number 2. Read the text and mark the statements true or false. Write in your copybooks. You have 8 minutes to do this exercise. Alixan Bukikhanov was the first biographer of Abai Kunanbayev. Ahmet Baytursunov was the Prime Minister of the Alash. Ahmet Baytursunov reformed the Kazakh alphabet. Mother of Muzhakib Dulatov was Dimesh. Madiyar and Argin are pen names of Alixan Bukikhanov. Muzhakib Dulatov first introduced to the world Abai in 1905. Now let's check your answers. First sentence: Alixan Bukikhanov was the first biographer of Abai Kunanbayev. It is true. Ahmet Baytursunov was the Prime Minister of the Alash. False, because Alixan Bukikhanov was the Prime Minister of the Alash. Ahmet Baytursunov reformed the Kazakh alphabet. It is true. Mother of Muzhakib Dulatov was Dimesh. It is true. Madiyar and Argin are pen names of Alixan Bukikhanov. It is false, because Madiyar and Argin are pen names of Muzhakib Dulatov. Muzhakib Dulatov first introduced to the world Abai in 1905. It is false, because Alixan Bukikhanov first introduced to the world Abai in 1905. Task number 3. Write the main facts what you learned about Alixan Bukikhanov, Ahmet Baytursunov, and Muzhakib Dulatov. I'll give you 8 minutes to write this exercise. So, I think you have finished. Let's check possible answers for this exercise. Alixan Bukikhanov, he is a Kazakh statesman, politician, publicist, teacher, writer. He was a founder of the Alash Party, the first biographer of Abai Kunanbayev. He was first introduced to the world Abai. The second person is Ahmet Baytursunov. He reformed the Kazakh alphabet, developed the basics of the Kazakh and scientific terminology for the definition of Kazakh grammar. And the newspaper Kazakh published Ahmet Байтурсынов's article, the main poet of the Kazakhs. And the third person is Majakib Dulatov, yes? He was poet, writer, publicist, teacher, public person. Wrote fundamental research articles about Ablay Khan, Kazakh Akın. He used the pen names Madiyar and Argın. So, your homework to prepare a project, work on this theme. Our lesson is over. I hope this lesson was useful for you and you will use it in your future life. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.